due to the logistics. So, before we start, Chartered Economists of Nigeria, the Director General as the CEO of Chartered Economists of Nigeria, no any other person, Professor Christopher Balogun. Professor Christopher Balogun is a man with many qualifications. He's the father of Chartered Economists of Nigeria. He's a geographer and also is the visionary of the Chartered Economists of Nigeria. He's a professor and he's a writer. He's an author of many. He has authored many books. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
The President of the School of Chartered Economists of Nigeria, Dr. Mrs. Veronica Okolo, has worked over 35 years and retired with the Nigeria, with NNPC, the NNPC Limited, as a managing director of public affairs. Also, has worked as a laboratory technology planning and budget monitoring council. Dr. Veronica Okolo is the president, is the acting president of the Institute of Chartered Economists of Nigeria. You are welcome, ma'am. The grand patron of the institute, Professor Felix. So you are welcome.
Thank you.
The people that matter, you are welcome, sir. Sir, let me know just book for that contract if I continue to not leave this place today.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we have here one of the persons that are mixed today is Professor Fabian James Zara. Welcome to the table, sir. Please, AB, your MSc in public in UK. Professor James is a staff, is a retired staff of Minister of Environment. Professor James, you are welcome, sir. Thank you very much.
It's not retired yet.
Okay, it's not retired yet. Okay, it's an active.
The MD of the World Compression.
Okay, sir.
Federal.
Okay.
And yes, so.
You can hear from me. Thank you very much, sir.
So,
before we proceed, let us observe our national protocol by, please, we need somebody who is here by the Holy Spirit to lead us in prayer. If you are led,
Father in heaven, we worship you. Almighty God, we bless you. We appreciate you for a day like this, an opportunity to be gathered under the auspices of the Institute of Chartered Economists of Nigeria. Lord, we commit today's proceedings into your hands, that as we set about discussing matters on how to move our nation forward, and by extension to better our lot, you will grant unto us wisdom, you will grant unto us insight, that everyone whom you have ordained to be here, that by your providence you will lead them here to this event safely and successfully in the name of Jesus. We pray that indeed all that we will hear, all that will be spoken of today, are things that we will put to practice and indeed we will see the result, that will cause us to give all the glory and all the praise unto you alone in the name of Jesus. Thank you, Lord God, for hearing us. Blessed be your holy name. In Jesus' name we have prayed.
thank you. Please, shall we all rise for the national anthem?
Our own dear native land, those eyes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
you very much. Thank you very much.
General and the Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Chartered Economists of Nigeria, the Registrar, members of the Governing Council, distinguished guest speakers, honorary doctors, esteemed fellows and associates, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the National Conference of the Institute of Chartered Economists of Nigeria. This conference promises to be an interesting one, going by the themes and the current state of economic development in our country, Nigeria. At today's conference, we will be examining the key economic indicators for building a sustainable economic growth in a developing nation such as Nigeria. We'll also look at other sub-themes. One of them is the place of statistical analysis in building a sustainable economic growth in developing nations. And the second one is building a nation free of corruption and godfatherism, a step to sustainable growth. We need to look at these issues critically and see what impact it has made in our nation. These are key issues bordering on our sustainable development. The conference presents a unique opportunity for us to engage in meaningful discussion, exchange ideas, and foster collaboration on the way forward to the economic challenges we face. The themes we are going to be exploring will not only enrich our understanding, but will also guide our efforts to address the economic challenges facing Nigeria and other developing nations. This conference not only serves as a platform of intellectual discourse, but also marks a significant milestone in the journey of our esteemed institute. We are going to be honoring the induction and upgrade of our members, as well as the convocation of our postgraduate scholars. The induction represents the continuation of our commitment as an institute to nurturing and fostering excellence in the field of economics. During the exercise, the newly inducted members will become a part of the institute and are required to be dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge and the highest standard of professionalism. To our graduates, their hard work, we say, has paid off, and we look forward to your contributions to the institute and the economic field. Finally, I want to say that this conference serves to empower our members through knowledge and professional development. I also extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for your commitment to the institute and to the advancement of economic thought. I also extend my appreciation to our speakers, whose expertise and insights will in no doubt enrich our discussion and inspire us all. Thank you very much and welcome once again to the conference.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Presentation 1, 2. Thank everyone that is here, and I just pray that what I'm seeing here is also what just a few weeks, one of the association that I'm also, people after the conference were also concerned at some level of apathy. You understand? It's a big association, but only very few people turned up. So we are asking, why are people not attending these things? What are the reasons? And see, this is a big association. And as economists, especially now that the Nigerian economy is struggling, our economy is struggling, one would expect that people would, economists, it's one thing to say, I'm a fellow of an institute of this capacity, and another thing for people to confront you at the bus stop, confront you in the banking hall, even confront you at your mosque or church and say, like somebody was asking me, I was just in a program with an NPC, and somebody was asking me, sir, what's your view on this tax bill? You understand? What's your view on this tax bill? What's your view on this? What's your view on this? And so we need to really look to see how we can get our people to be truly economists at heart. Not just the certificate, but at heart. And the reason some of us are moving from place to place because we believe that our little contribution can go a long way to change the tide of things. So we'll look at it. After the meeting, we'll look at it to see how our next conference will attract more people. We need to have economists become, especially now the country needs economists. When the CBN, people are expecting they will go down on the monetary policy. Instead, they went up by 50 basis points. Why? And they realize that it's not solving the inflation problem, it's not solving FX problem. So is it really a monetary solution they're applying? Or is there a complete structural effect in the economy that the managers are not noticing? So those are things that a normal institution like ours and our members should be concerned with. I'm concerned that our people probably are not realizing that this is their time. This is the time of Icen. This is the time of Icen. Icen should be talking. Icen should be talking. Let's see the next. So typically, one of the things that I always encourage myself is you cannot actually talk about Nigeria without talking about the global space. A lot of things are changing. Our economy is not a standalone. A lot of global issues, continental issues, impact on the sustainability of the Nigerian economy. And wherever I try to subscribe to people that as economists, even I'm also an engineer, please let's know what is happening at the global front so that we'll be able to guide our national issue. Let's see the next slide. So this is a topical issue, whether you like it or not. It has great influence today in the global space. Energy transition, climate issues. You probably have heard of. This is actually what drives sustainability now. The reason this thing is because of sustainability. The earth, the atmosphere is no longer sustainable. Climatic changes, frequent, damage, flash floods, landslides, hurricane, all kinds of things, wildfire, extreme snow, extreme heat. So many things are happening, and so the habitat is no longer sustainable because of what greenhouse gas effect. They say pollution is coming from energy consumption, especially for petrol, fossil fuel, and all that. So they recently have this conference of party. COP is conference of party, that they held in Russia, and the idea is to continue to see how they can hold the global temperature, which is almost failing, at 1.5. And then the issue is that a lot of the developing countries are suffering economically. Drought is killing Africans. But unfortunately, Africa is the least contributor to the global, warming. But we are the worst hit. Drought is everywhere. Floods are everywhere. So economies are devastated. And so the developing countries, not only Africa, but the small island countries and all other places where there is a fear. There are countries that the first country to value, if you Google to value is in the middle of, it's going to be the first country that will disappear. It's on YouTube. I watch it every time. The last COP28, the president and his cabinet were in the water. So they are doing this thing right in the water. So their children, their people, they have only one airport, which is the main country that will disappear because of climate issues. So whether we like it or not, as economists, we also need to look at the economic impact and what the globe is doing. So originally, they spoke about 100 billion. But now, this meeting, they said, listen, the way this is adaptation. Adaptation is, not necessarily mitigation. Adaptation is how to adapt the environment to the present crisis. Even in Nigeria, we don't know when it's rainy season, when it's dry season. We don't know what's that. So this is a major sustainability issues. And we are hoping that the 300 billion will impact a little bit of adaptation issues on, and as economists, is something we must see. Then the Russian-Ukrainian war is also becoming challenging. I was scared until Trump came, and Trump is a deal maker, but it was almost escalating. It's already gradually. Poland, recently there was a fight, an explosion in Poland, so the Polish people also, and then Sweden is there, all of those countries by the Russian side. So it's like Europe wants to go to war, so it's a scary thing. People think it's the third world war that is coming, you understand. But Trump, fortunately, Biden is just have a few weeks to go, something that they refuse to do. He just has said they should shoot, he permitted that they should start using long range, 200 kilometer range missile. Russia have to fire back, you understand? And then everybody is worried, is there going to be a third world war? So nobody is understanding what is going on. And Nigeria, no matter how far you are, close you are, if anything is going to go wrong, I can tell you some military strategies is that, a dying man can decide to blast Africa. Putin has a terminal case. He's not a healthy man. He knows he will die, but because of their medical, they are sustaining him. He wants to die with the war, but God will not allow that. So this is something, it's getting escalated. People are worried. Where is it going? How is it going to impact the globe? Europe is threatened. Everybody is threatened. And so we need to, then the Israeli-Middle East war is also another carnage. I don't know if you have time to look at Gaza. Gaza doesn't exist anymore. It's a humanitarian disaster presently. And then, of course, they just had a ceasefire with Beirut and Lebanon because of Ebola people. And, of course, Iran was also trying to fight. So a lot of global issues that is making the world gradually becoming unsustainable. I tell people in those days, we like to go on vacation, but these days, if you want to go on vacation, you have to be careful who want to blow up one thing or the other. Russia knows that. And also, on this one, Russia is the biggest country up to today. 22 million square miles of a country is bigger than US, bigger than China and everything. But it's split in just about 144 million. It's a small, low density country. But US is working so hard to see that they can split Russia again. So some of the republics, like Chechnya and all that, they want to break off. And Putin is saying he would rather die than see that happen. So he can blow up. Everybody's hand is now on the red button. You understand? There's a red button in everybody. And it's only Nigeria that don't have red button. I don't know which button they have. So all of them are putting their hand on the red button to want to shoot their nuclear weapon. So if anybody releases any nuclear, you know, that would be it's a disaster. And nobody wants to do that. So it's quite, let's go. So this is another major disaster. Then Trump presidency. I decided to do that because Trump now is coming in, they call it Trump 2.0. Trump 2.0 will change the whole world. You understand? It will change the dynamics. The economic play is people are still, you know, we are going to see his own view, people analysis of his view on African economy. You understand? Nigeria is purely an import dependent. You know, we don't even export anything apart from crude oil and gas. And you know, Trump, it was during Trump time they crashed the crude price. You understand? So some of us think it's going to, in fact, one of the things he wants to do is to increase their crude oil production, and it will crash. So I was just talking to some people, the 2025 budget, where they put it at $75 is not going to be, and then 2 million barrels is not going to be. So the issue is, we're already clear that we are entering a year of difficulty. There is no, it is not a doom prophecy, but it's purely facts and figures. And so the economic managers probably, right now, what people should, all countries, mainly Europe, everybody is having discussions on Trump 2.0. Because only Nigeria have not seen a collective, unless he has a different view. Trump might go even further. The United States might increasingly withdraw from everything that he thinks is a waste. Everything that he thinks is a waste, he wants to withdraw from it. And so developing economies like Nigeria that are always looking for subsidy and godfather and godmother is not likely going to be. And that's also why Nigeria is now probably, let's see the next one. To Europe and the West, this might favor some actors because people are going to align. But the major thing that we are worried is that America is going to pull away from this climate issue. Trump doesn't believe in it at all. So he's going to get his fossil fuel, he's going to pump a lot of things, you know, and then, of course, he's going to bring a little bit of problem between Europe and America. What Trump will do to Nigeria and Africa. I think the next slides talk about his impact on Africa. You understand that this is our continent, and it's not really a very good, you know, people don't think he will do so much, but they colonize Africa. Biden, I guess they are trying to do an African renaissance, that okay, China and Russia are trying to take over Africa through BRICS, through the BRICS concept. So America, this is what people are saying, that maybe Trump may have a rethink for geopolitical balance and resource balance. They may probably, he has to make a turnaround and come to Africa and support Africa. Otherwise, he is not an African. He's not an African, you understand? So John, he is not a good, he doesn't support immigration at all. So Africa, I mean, these are numbers, you know, this concerns Africa. As in 2022, around 13,000 African migrants were accorded at the listing. Then 2023, this figure quadrupled to 58,000. So very much likely, if Trump doesn't change his mind, he will send a lot of Africans out of the US. So those are things that we should be worried about. Of course, while they were there, you can see diaspora remittances, which is part of our foreign direct fund that comes in for Nigeria and others. All of that will be a cyclone effect on our economic sustainability in the 2025, and of course election is, by the end of 2025, I don't think there will be any governance. Everybody will be looking for the next vote in 2027. Security and conflict, while Trump has been away from Russia has stepped into, so of course Russia is colonizing that, and so people are thinking also that maybe America, Trump is a madman, he can change his plan, but Russia and China are not giving up. One of the reasons Biden came, people are, that was just a recent answer, I didn't add it. People are thinking that they want to have a military base in Rwanda. America wants to set a military base in Rwanda. Of course, they are funding a major, cross-country Lobito and this thing line, railway. So these are things that we on this side of the hemisphere are thinking on Trump 2.0. So Nigeria cannot actually sit down and plan. I've read through their listing and I was sad, you understand, because some of the numbers they are quoting are already old numbers. How can you be talking about 2025 fiscal world and you are citing 2023? There is no current. I was just asking myself, which people are putting these documents together? What's their mindset and what's their listening? So it's really a little bit tight for me to see how this country thinks. But there is no way we can think in isolation from Trump 2.0. But this Trump 2.0 will change the globe. And the people that will probably suffer most, except God comes, will be the continent of Africa. And Nigeria will probably have issues. Let's see. Of course, Trump, attempt multipolar world that want to create from the American, they call the Pax American, the American Empire. Even America does not have any visible colony, but the whole globe is American Empire. And I really celebrate. Recently, the president of South Korea declared, a martial law, and I was still awake. By 2 a.m., their legislators came together, 2 a.m. in the morning, between 1 and 2 a.m., and repealed what the president said. In the meantime, Washington is awake. So I was surprised. America is awake and commenting and say they are watching developments in South Korea. No other country. Washington is awake and watching what is going on in Seoul and then pushing and supporting. For the bipartisan people, both the president party and the other people had to come to the assembly in 1 a.m. to revoke the martial law. Washington is watching. And I tell people, can China do that? Can China do that? Can which country? I don't support everything about America, but what they are doing, America is the one negotiating the broker peace between Israel and Lebanon. America is the one working on Gaza trip. I was in a conference in London. Yeah, fine, don't worry around. I was in a conference in London and an MP came, he said, look, if anybody lied to you, it's a shame. There's only one country that can manage the world for now. That is the US. It's all of us. We are lying to ourselves. He said the capacity America has, Europe don't have it as a subcontinent. So BRICS is something that want to change that. 8.5 trillion, just about American economy, and then fighting. We will impose 100% tariff, and then we shut down the economy. So we need to put all this in perspective when we're discussing sustainable economy. Let's move. The outcome of BRICS is just one thing. They want to de-dollarize the global, because of sanctions. And me, I'm on both sides. I sympathize with BRICS. I also sympathize with America. If you notice, the BRICS held a meeting, and none of them stood up to tell Russia to pull out of Ukraine. None of them. And I wasn't happy. I expected somebody to tell Russia, come out of Ukraine. Please, just stop it. Don't do it. You can't take over another sovereign nation. You don't have the strength to do that. That's why I was defeated with BRICS. I support what they are doing. They are creating a new system so that there will be a balanced global play, not one big, even though they don't have as much strength as America. But the fact that they cannot tell Russia to come out of Ukraine, that gave me, a little bit of a problem. I wish they are big enough. They are setting up a parallel system, I agree. They want to have a current currency, but right now, they've stopped that idea. They don't think that is the way to go. They want to trade with their local currency. I have no problem with that. But they must not be the way Russia is going with this thing. Let's go. It will take a long time for the dollar to be pulled out of space. But they want to reduce the dollar value And once it's not backed with gold, once they reduce the dollar, American economy will begin to. So America is also fighting. All of these, so some people are asking, why should Nigeria talk about FX in dollar? Why should Nigeria denominate our budget in dollar and all that? Why can't they do it in Naira, since it's now trying to be in BRICS? But the other argument is that it's not easy to denominate your economy on any other currency for now except the dollar. So those are also discussions. Let's go to the next slide. These are our economy. Let's go to the next one. Of course, you can see the projections for 2025 outlook, and then let's see the next one. Yeah, this one is standard, but this one shows you the global breakdown or the forecast of the economy for 2025. Really a problem for now, and it's something that we need to work very seriously. We are purely natural resource, and somebody said the white man doesn't want us to develop, and I tell people it's a joke. The white man is not stopping you from development. It's you that is stopping yourself. I mean, Rwanda is working. You understand? Rwanda is working. Surprisingly, Angola had 20 years of a civil war, but Angola is working. Of all the countries where America sees to go is Angola instead of Abuja. And they have not sat down to say why. You understand? Countries are working. So if Nigeria is not working, it's not white man problem. Let's go to the next slide. Sub-Saharan Africa, I won't bore you, you can always look at this. We are still, the irony of the Nigerian economy is that we are behaving like as if we are a developed economy. You understand? Which is a misnomer. Because economy have a trajectory. Primary, secondary, tertiary, and all that. Nigeria is surviving on service economy without a manufacturing base, without an industry base. So that's why our FX cannot be stable. We are exporting nothing. We're exporting nothing. So we are getting money from nowhere. But yet, we are growing. If you look at the breakdown, so you see primary economy, they are purely commodity. Secondary goes into industrialization. Then tertiary, go to the next one. Tertiary, of course, you start moving into service. And then quaternary is knowledge-based. This is what they are borrowing people authority. Everything they are doing, they are importing it. We are not manufacturing anything. Rwanda is manufacturing food. Everything is assembly. So how can you deceive us and say that you break down your economy and service is 53%, 56%, 70%, and they are manufacturing, the secondary sector is zero? It will never solve our problem. Let's move on. Pathway to development. As a country increases the amount of tertiary and quaternary activity that takes place, it will naturally begin to develop. The usual follow after industrialization, rapid increase. So there is no other gamble. There is no other gamble. There is no other gamble. You have to grow because each phase provides a foundation for the next phase. Each phase provides a foundation. Your experience in the first phase leads you to the second phase, to the third phase. Nigeria wants to be at the fourth phase without the experience anywhere. That is what I think we need to look at the structure. That is why all of the monetary policy they are doing is not able to address inflation and not able to address FX because we are import-dependent economy. Let's move to the next one. You can look at this. These are characteristics of development. Why I put this is just to let you know, this is not where we are in terms of structure, but this is where we think we are in terms of deception. You understand? In terms of deception. We are not a developed economy. We are not a developed economy. All the indices are wrong, but let's move forward. So these are the classifications. You can see where Nigeria is. We will move to the next one. Nigerian economic status, briefly. We have a lot of challenges because of time. Getting better. When we should be at 300, at 200, at 500. But of course, we can't support that because we are not producing anything. We are importing everything. The other challenge is low productivity of the economy. Our economy is heavily low productive. Fourth is that the weak governance, institutional. We don't have anything that is anything that will regulate and manage the economy. You understand? The fifth is poor infrastructure and all that. So you have a lot of challenges that are typical of, for me, even a least developed economy. Meanwhile, you are eating from service sector in a developed framework, which is the deception. Let's go to the next one. So is non-oil sector 94, oil sector is this. So why are we still suffering? We should listen. This is service. You understand? The whole of our, this thing is from services. What are you servicing that you are not producing? That is the. And so when the president said, wow, our economy is going at 3.46, that will be $1 trillion in 2030, I said, how do you calculate that? The sectors, but actively we have 46 economic sectors. And I was looking at other countries, how they are surviving. UK, that is an advanced developed economy, 2024, they said they had about 38 million visitors, and they were calculating what they were getting in terms of billion pounds. They said by 2025, their target is to have 50 million visitors. You are joking. You understand? See service, as if we are an advanced economy. It's all a joke. Just go down. So here, just go down. You see, I tried to put the 46 sectors. I know, just go back. I tried to put it for, if you have a time, you can look at it. And look at some of them at zero. Nobody's paying attention to it. They are concentrating on oil, concentrating on information technology that does not belong to you. You don't manufacture anything, and don't do anything. You understand? So I said, who is managing the economy and lying to us continuously? The areas that we can do something, we are doing nothing. All of our economy that we're getting are import-based economy. Nothing is export-based economy. Let's go down. This is debt body. I don't know why, but very soon, not very soon, our debt is no longer sustainable. You understand? We passed the 40% GDP, debt GDP. So we're about 50 something now. So we are not. They are still taking 2.2 billion. So these are crises that will come at the end of the day. So this is why I said that it's Icen year or Icen season. You understand? Because this is what economists do. This is what economists talk. This is what economists say. Because we are in the wrong economic structure. Our problem is not monetary problem, it's purely structural problem. Structural problem. And until they come to terms, they will keep fixing, pegging the exchange rate. Whenever they have some dollar, they will sell it, thinking that will stabilize it. That is one of the primary things that you shouldn't do. It's a structural effect. Let's move on very quickly. So yeah, I did this to show fuel price, and it does not have from the beginning to, so you can see, see where the problem started, Buhari time and all that. Right now we are 1,100. So you can actually do all this and analyze it and tell them Tinubu came, whatever it is doing very well from 195 to 1,100. You understand? So let's move very quick. So you can correlate Tinubu economics. You understand? Tinubu economics saying, you are just headline inflation, and all that month on month. So you can't really stabilize an economy that does not have a stop point. Debt burden, the guy is the story, the debt burden, debts, domestic and all that. We're already at 58, which is beyond the 40% that we said, would be. So we are no longer as sustainable. And when your services, debt service revenue ratio, 162%. So typically, it's not GDP that drives it; it's your revenue that drives it. And, somebody wrote and refuted, no, Netflix is not leaving Nigeria. I said, for the fact that they said Netflix is not leaving Nigeria, means that you must have had a rumor that Netflix is leaving Nigeria. So when the people managing, you don't understand whether they are primary, secondary, tertiary, or quaternary economy, when you don't know whether they are developed forward, an ideal and stable economy is one which provides for the greatest amount of general well-being with the least amount of resource use and environmental harm in economic terms. To be truly sustainable, the overall demand for natural resources, also known as ecological footprint, must be less than the renewable. Ideally, sustainable development creates operational systems that consume natural capital, also known as natural resource, slowly enough that future generations can also use those resources. So for me, it's everything sustainable is this. We don't have a sustainable political system because our political system don't have a future for next political generation. We don't have sustainable school. We don't have sustainable roads. We don't have sustainable anything. You understand? Nothing has a future mindset. Nothing has a tomorrow mindset. Nothing has next children mindset. Employment don't have sustainable thought process. Our education don't have sustainable thinking. As long as everything is now, my time, my tenure, my reign, my 4 years, my 6 years, there will be no sustainable thinking. So sustainability is not just, a language, a definition. It's just something very pragmatic. Economic sustainability is a broad set of decision-making principles and business practices aimed at achieving economic growth without engaging in the harmful environment trade-off that historically accompany growth. The unifying principle behind this is rejecting wasteful short-term processes and embracing short-term, and that is the problem with Nigeria. We are short-term wasters. We don't have long-term effects. Some think of these things. How can you have a sustainable mindset? How can you develop a sustainable framework? That is my concern with the Nigerian economic world. So I won't bore you with the maintenance and sustenance of a high real growth rate of the economy to achieve the development or economic growth. It means maintaining an economic growth rate that doesn't generate price pressure, doesn't deplete resource, and doesn't significantly damage the environment. Sustainable economic, when you will see, across countries, Nigeria, I wish I can highlight Nigeria, nothing here depicts sustainability or economic complexity. How many minutes do I have? You understand? But Nigeria economy is still a simple, primary, bush economy. And in the economic, let me show you, before go forward, let me show you, go forward before we come to, go forward. Yeah, see. This is where Nigeria is. Entered economic complexity index. We just look at where Nigeria is. It's a simple, as far as they are concerned, there is no problem. There's a publication by, So look at how simple our economy is. So it can't grow. It can't grow because this is about how many parameters they put together to make sure whether to define how your economy is going, and we are negative. Let me just go back and put some explanation. Okay, so I think it's here. Just go here. Okay, I tried to explain there. The economic complexity reflects the amount of knowledge that is embedded in the productive structure of economy. Seen this way, it is no coincidence that there is a strong correlation between our measure of economic complexity and the income per capita that countries are able to generate. Knowledge. All developed economies invest in the tacit knowledge. The tacit knowledge is the crucial part of knowledge and therefore hard to embed in people. Learning how to fix dental problems, speak a foreign language, or run a farm requires a costly and time-consuming effort. So this is where Nigerians are missing it. Where they're missing, Nigerians are not ready to invest in knowledge. Knowledge is what constrains the process of growth and development. Ultimately, differences in prosperity are related to the amount of tacit knowledge that societies hold and to their ability to combine and share this knowledge. So if you don't get your people to specialize in knowledge, if you don't get your school, if you don't get your environment to invest in knowledge, you cannot grow. And we are one of the poorest funded educational country on earth. So there is no way we can develop our economy and sustain our economy. I was so busy, Prof was asking me this. Well, I'll sit down and write, actually an article and we can publish this because I was so let me just say one or two things there. The amount of productive knowledge that a society uses is reflected in the variety of firms it has, in the variety of occupation these firms require, and in the extent of interaction between firms. Economic complexity is a measure of how intricate this network of interaction is, and hence how much productive knowledge a society mobilizes. is expressed in the composition of a country's productive output, reflects the structure that emerged to hold and combine knowledge. Knowledge can only be accumulated, transferred, and preserved if it is embedded in networks of individuals and organizations that put this knowledge into productive use. That is what is called economic complexity. And we are one of the least in the globe. Let's just go to the next one. So these are comparison of how complex economy is, and they are comparing contribution to the various economic growth from complex variables and from a measure of governance. Economic complexity takes a lead. Here, contribution of various income from economic complexity, measures of by shared knowledge, in-depth knowledge, prized knowledge, knowledge that is prized. You can't move beyond where you are. And Nigeria is lacking. Do you know our literacy rates? Our literacy rate is 53-54%. Our literacy rate is very low. In English, the literacies are one in native and one in English. But all of the Middle East, go and check the literacy rate of Saudi Arabia, check the literacy rate of Libya, check the literacy rate in all these countries. In English. Let's so it is, let's move. This is productive capacity. Now this is also another measure. Productive capacity index is a multi-dimensional index that measures productive capacity, provide country-specific insights, diagnostic of productiveness, and these are. Go to the next page. That's Nigeria. Below Angola. So, Nigeria is one of the least diversified economies. So you can't also. Let's move to the next. So it's important that we understand, let's just, because of time, let's move, And that's why I think, sir, Icen has a lot of role to play. Exactly. Some of these things, some of us spend time, we research this, we understand this. And then the only way, I wish that we have government people here. If they are here, I'll probably spend more time on economic complexity and some of these variables, so that they understand that they are running a very simple economy that can never move out of the roots. Productive frontier index, we need to explain what it means, because we can hear it ourselves, but the question is, who is going to implement it? Let's go to the next one. Few that are active. We can't continue. By the economic complexity index, Nigeria is relatively a non-complex economy. It is very low. This is because Nigerian economy is not driven by shared prosperity in knowledge. Nigeria operates in knowledge silos. It can't work. The country must therefore forcefully tie its industry to the academics and invest heavily in R&D. We can't move forward. You understand? The country also scored very low in productive capacity index, and if the country must move its economy forward, there must also be deliberate push. Nigeria also suffers from poorly distributed territorial development as a federation, and recent empowerment of LGA, I hope, will be able to balance that gap. The country has a high country risk relative to reward on the reward metrics, and also ranked very high on fragile state index, country stability risk index, where it is ranked as vulnerable. These are things that take too much of your time.
Thank you very much. Yes, before innovation and enterprises, National State University, I welcome her. So at this juncture, let me welcome the second speaker.
Of course, the lecture will explore the multi-factor role of statistical analysis in unlocking Nigeria's economic potential, driving sustainable growth, and improving the lives of citizens. We will search into the application of statistical analysis in various sectors, discuss challenges and opportunities, and examine success stories from around the world. I want us to go to the basics of the whole thing so that we understand the simple terms, so that by the time we situate ourselves, we're able to understand what really it's all about and where we find ourselves, so that looking at ourselves in the mirror, we speak to ourselves and chart the way forward. Basically, what is statistical analysis? Statistical analysis is a system used to collect and analyze data to understand patterns, trends, relationship. It involves using mathematical techniques to summarize and interpret data, often to answer specific questions and test hypotheses. There are different types of them. We have descriptive analysis, statistical analysis, we have differential, there's regression analysis, there's hypothesis testing, there's contextual intervals, also time series analysis, there's correlation analysis, cluster analysis, factor analysis, and non-parametric analysis. Sorry, I'm more comfortable reading here because I just did that operation, so it's light there.
Okay, it's too sharp.
For me, so that's why I prefer it. So it's used in various fields. You can see that statistical analysis is used for research, it's used for business, for healthcare, social sciences, engineering, and by applying statistical analysis, we can extract insights from data, make informed decisions, and derive meaningful outcomes. The other key word is sustainability. So this are causing harm to the environment, the economy, or social or society. Three pillars of sustainability. They are one, environment. Talk about environment. The economics, which has been highly emphasized in the first lecture, and also talk of social sustainability. Environmental sustainability talks about conserving natural resources, reducing pollution, and protecting our ecosystem. Economic sustainability promotes economic growth, prosperity, stability, while ensuring equitable distribution of resources. And also we talk of social sustainability. SDG, that's the other first one in 2000 was SDG. SDG. I just forgot the word now. Before we talked about Millennium Development Goals, MDG 2000. That was purely for developing countries, and it was meant for us to look at key things: improve education, gender sensitivity, reduce child mortality, infant mortality, improve education, and the child improvement, all those things. And I don't think we will come out of that. Now, talking about sustainability, it's talking about the global, the whole world. Now, everybody is included in this aspect. Like Prof was saying, everybody has a stake to play, and we have to be relevant, or else we will be left behind. So, what is sustainable economic growth? Sustainable economic growth refers to the rate of economic growth that is environmentally sustainable, socially inclusive, and also economic resilient. These things must come to play. And what are the characteristics? For them to be meaningful, first, there was a balanced growth across all sectors, regions, and population, just like Prof portrays. Also, it was resource efficiency, utilization of our resources. We must be able to optimize our natural resources and human resources. And it must be innovation driven. We must use our capacities. We must have area of core competencies so that we'll be able to compete too. We also have human development and institutional stability. Now, how do we know that these things are working for us? There are indicators, and these indicators have to do with the GDP of that country, the employment rate, the poverty rate, the human development index, environmental performance index, resource depletion rates, and innovation metrics. These are indicators that shows the economic stability of a particular country. Statistical analysis in economic development, that's the first one. The second one, identify the challenges of data collection and analysis in a developing nation like Nigeria. Then four, showcase the application of statistical analysis in various sectors of the Nigerian economy. 5, highlight the benefits of using statistical analysis in policy making and economic planning. 6, examine the relationship between statistical analysis and sustainable economic growth. 7, discuss the need for capacity building and investment in statistical analysis in Nigeria. 8, provide examples of successful implementation of statistical analysis in economic development in other countries. 7, offer recommendations for improving the use of statistical analysis in building a sustainable economy in Nigeria. Then number 10, just to stimulate discussion for us to disagree or agree on how we go about this. In achieving these objectives, the lecture aims to emphasize the crucial role of statistical analysis in building a sustainable economic Nigeria and encourage stakeholders to prioritize data-driven decision making. Now, what's the role of statistical analysis in economic development? Well, see that most times decisions are made out of that basis. Someone will just sit down and maybe because of political influence and what have you, they just decide what to do. You know, and if there is no background to it, of course the results will not take us anywhere. See, what is being carried is an overburden on the roads. You know, sadly, we don't have ordinary weighbridge on our roads to be able to see what should be on that road. So it's everybody just do what he wants to do, and there's no how to design a road for 20 years with a particular capacity. To not leave that, it is not live up to that. So the key thing is for us to have a holistic approach. The railway sector is one that can carry most of these things. If we are able to connect them, it will help us. Government today has a railway modernization program, 25 years master plan. The idea is that you will link Lagos to Kano. Then, of course, the Maradi section is there too. But we have a gap. You have Lagos to Ibadan. You have Kaduna, Abuja to Kaduna. Between Ibadan and Abuja, there's a gap. You have Warri Itakpe. Between Itakpe and Abuja, there's a gap. So, but by the time we're able to link up this one, and then we also intend to have the eastern corridor from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. Once we have this one, all these heavy loads can be put on them, and then the roads will have more lifespan to have used to carry just minor loads. So all those things have not been looked into. Except we are able to articulate them, no matter the investment we put into this thing, they may never work. The importance of used to crossing, now you have put a barrier. You want to stop them to cross. It will not happen. You must break it, you must pass through. But the train line being done from Kano to Maradi now, maybe because it's being sponsored by foreign loans and there's foreign banks that are involved, they insist that one, there must be the issue of sustainability. You know, so the way it is designed now is so that there is access, underpasses, there's routes, so that people can seamlessly cross. And the people there are mostly headers, you know, so when they come with their cows or whatever, there's passage for them. So you are not shut them off. So the kind of thing that happens on this other corridor will not happen over there because yes, there was stakeholders engagement that involved everybody and everybody's concern is being considered. You know, even the residential action plan and take care of everybody, even the business we are doing, by the time they relocate to, you want to ensure that you have not lost much. The impact does not affect you very well. So the concern is there and everybody is happy. So we must emphasize that this thing continues in all that we are doing. The challenges of data collection analysis in a developing population like Nigeria. There are challenges in data collection. One, lack of infrastructure. Like we said, inadequate to even assess the places where you are going to get the data. Transportation and communication network hinder data collection in rural areas. Limited resources, insufficient funding, personnel and equipment constrain data collection efforts. There are security concerns. Insecurity in some regions makes data collection risky. There are cultural and language barriers. Diverse culture and languages can make data collection challenging. There are low response rates. Respondents may be unwilling to participate or provide inaccurate data. These are issues. If you are doing studies now, taking like the road sector, so I speak at such infrastructure, if you want to build a road from here to another place, there's what they call origin to destination survey. That way you'll be able to know how many people and the chains of locations they will go to. You are really approach to get data collection. But sometimes people are reluctant, or some will tell you this government, people have lost confidence. So all those things will stop you from doing that. Some areas you can't even access it because of security concern. So by the time you see that you are planning, you may just project, and that usually will not give you any good answer. So these are the problems. Sometimes it's culture or language barriers. You talk to them, communication is a problem. So how do we matter? Okay, data management. In that data management challenge. I've talked about this one. The other one is technological challenges. Under data management, we have issue of corruption too. Insufficient legal framework, limited capacity building. These are things we are all aware with. Then I'm talking about be fluctuating, and so there will be no continuity in what we are doing. Power supply is a common thing we do. If that you can't sustain what you are doing, even your data can be disrupted. So these are this. Now, we are talking generally about this thing. What is the reality of data management in Nigeria over the years? We have reference to show that we have problems over the years with data management. First of all, in 1991, Nigerian census. Nigeria was marred by controversy with allegations of reported inconsistencies in data quality, particularly in rural areas. We have the general election 2019, issue of election to tomorrow. I think we have not solved that one. Still there. We have the issue of COVID-19 data. Inconsistent reporting and underreporting of cases and deaths have hindered effective pandemic response. Then we have National Bureau of Statistics. NBS has faced criticism for delay or inadequate data releases, including GDP figures and inflation rates. In trade facts and debt figures, it was difficult because the responses were not coming, and two, they realized that even the areas were not even covered. But I know I have to take it to a specific place. The guy just took the payload and today he survived with it. Left her, abandoned her. These examples highlight the importance of important data collection practice in Nigeria to ensure accurate and reliable information for decision making. So we've seen the flaws in data collection in Nigeria, and an aggregate of things that we must address each one of them so that we can have the global application towards engagement of all sectors for development. Now, the techniques used have earlier mentioned. Just here is racial analysis, time series analysis. These are different approaches which are academic that we can apply to use this for statistical analysis. Now the benefits are clear again. By the time we have this data, it will help us in making decisions. Sometimes decisions are in the areas where we see that sustainable development can help us achieve what we want to do. So by leveraging statistical analysis, policymakers and economic planners can make informed decisions, optimize resources, and drive sustainable development. Now, what is the relationship between statistical analysis and sustainable economic growth? The relationship what we see here is that it helps in informing policy decision, because when you have that data and you have thinking of sustainable development, this is what you key into so that you're able to achieve that particular target you want to achieve. So it helps also to effectively evaluate your policies. Once you have them, along the trend line, you're able to see how well you are performing, how well you are progressing, and also monitor and review towards streamlining what you are supposed to achieve. Also, it's initiative to reach where they are. We have South Korea, they are where they are too because of that. Kenya, our brother countries, are even doing well too. They use Open Data Initiative, they have National Bureau of Statistics, and they have data-driven agriculture, which is helping them. We have Brazil, we have India, we have Estonia. These are countries that are benefiting because they have deliberately planned how to go about it. We have United Integrity, adjust strategies based on evaluation findings, so that if it's going out of our intended plan, we'll be able to do it. So all these things will help us. Some years back, when the last president put in place executive number 07, is for use of tax credit scheme to monitor or to develop roads. Today you have Dangote doing a particular road or NPC and what have you. At that time, when it was announced, more than 30 companies came on board. They said too they want to carry roads and develop, because they feel, I don't know what they want to benefit from it, but the idea is that instead of government putting money everywhere in the budget to do a road, these investors will carry the business section, and because the tax is coming from them, they can bring continuity in funding, so that any amount of money they spend, it will be related to their tax over time. So the issue of delayed funding will not come in. So when these companies came, and by the time they did the evaluation, over time you do successive, their previous earnings, their tax they had and what have you projected them. Most of them were not doing well. By the time you on the runner, they didn't sit down to look at it, but some were given these contracts and the heads, they couldn't continue. So only the likes of even Dangote is struggling now to do. The one I know that has been compared is the one in Apapa Ocean, the corporate one. The other one elsewhere, they are still struggling to do them. So if these things are being done, before you even make the decision to award them or go for, you will have known that the capacity of these people is suspect and you know who and who to engage. So I will end my discussion with a take-home. Whether Nigeria, with this background, whether we feel Nigeria can still do it, but it's a take-home for us. And because some have argued that Nigeria economic growth, we have our economy is diversified. But if we look at the present challenges in terms of infrastructure, human capital development, innovation, and what have you, it's a big problem. So, doing SWOT analysis, we look at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That way we're able to charge forward. Thank
you. Of this institution, Icen have consistently demonstrated commitment in issues around our national economy. So thank you very much for this review. I'm always privileged to do that. And I was asked to speak on the topic. I don't know if you can project it. On the topic on corruption, ending corruption and godfatherism, a step towards sustainable economic growth. Hope springs eternal, and it is that hope that leaves every one of you to sit right here and to come for this conference. So I was both excited and apprehensive when I was given the topic. Now, of course, I was excited because as academics and as economists, we feed on intellectual conversations like this. So I needed the stimulation. But I was worried because the last time I checked, the first and the only head of Economic and Financial Crime, the only woman that had the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, had once warned that if you fight corruption, it fights you back. If you talk about it, it haunts you. So, Prof. Sir, am I safe to afternoon? And second, you know, as academics, we do like to gravitate towards our complex, towards our comfort zone. And a lot of time, we like complex topics that few people understand. Because that's where we build our citation from. That's how we get Nobel laureates and all of that. But corruption is different. It is a universal problem that afflicts all societies in the globe. So the problem becomes how do we approach a topic that everyone thinks about? I'm sure the moment I mentioned corruption, building a nation free of corruption, it resonates with almost everybody here. And it's like, what is it again about corruption? So how do we offer a fresh perspective, a new insight into this seemingly familiar issue? Of course, we know in the last ranking by the Global Anti-Corruption Watchdog, which is the Transparency International, we ranked 145 out of 180 countries, and of course number 25 out of 100 points in the Corruption Perspective Index. Some of these facts are not new to all of us. I mean, it's consistently being repeated. So the study of corruption, we know, has long history in economics. Most of us are familiar with it, with the concept of what we call rent-seeking, that has been particularly influential in understanding the mechanism of how corruption functions. And rent-seeking refers to activities that aim to capture economic rents, especially with the use of political influence and manipulation of the markets. However, this correlation between corruption and a nation's economic growth isn't just a theory. It is rooted in facts. Popularly known as PwC, reported that if we don't do anything about corruption, it will affect our GDP about 37%. And you don't need to understand basic economics to know the implication of what that is. But I don't engage in fighting, and that is how corruption always fights back. So rather than engage in a battle and a fight against corruption, I have a different perspective. I think we should find a way to adopt a strategic approach that will focus on understanding and addressing its root causes. There's a cost to corruption. So it's not for me to define what corruption is to all of you, but I want to bring a fresh perspective to it. I think it is time for us to first acknowledge the problem, analyze the structure, and then implement deliberate target or solutions, and perhaps we will minimize corruption. So to gain a comprehensive understanding of corruption from my perspective this afternoon, I thought through and came up with what I call a three-dimensional lens. A three-dimensional lens. This framework highlights the connected roles of three groups of individuals. That's where we have the benefactor, that's the actor, and then we have the victim. And of course we have the institution, or rather what I call the middleman. Who is the benefactor? What roles do they play in the concept of this corruption? Of course, the individual or group that initiates and executes corrupt acts, often motivated by personal gain or influence, using power to influence or exploit resources, embezzle funds, or engage in illicit activities. For instance, of course, we like to use these examples, a politician who diverts public funds, or maybe the most recent 754 buildings in Lokongoma, I don't know. I'm not quoting anyone today. That's the benefactor and the actor. And then we have the victim. We like to play the victim, but everyone would have a place today. The victim, the individual or the group that suffers the negative consequences of corruption. It can be from ordinary citizens denied of essential services to businesses hindered by unfair practices. What are these services? Of course, access to quality and affordable education, access to health care, such that it will lead to high life expectancy and all of that. And even a small business owner forced to pay bribes to secure his government contract is a clear example of a victim. Sometimes you have, or you're forced by corruption to play the victim. And then we have the enabling institution, the one I always like to call the middleman. I wish I could do some graphics so that it will present itself like a puzzle. The middlemen, often overlooked, but for corruption to thrive, they are the most functional group of individuals. The enabling institutions, this institution plays a crucial role in facilitating corruption. They are government agencies, maybe regulatory bodies, judicial systems, characterized by something very common, and that is weak governance, lack of transparency, and of course we know systematic inefficiencies that the previous speakers had spoken about. A regulatory agency that fails to enforce anti-corruption laws, thereby creating an environment conducive for corruption to thrive, is a prime example of an enabling institution, that's the middleman. Somehow, we are all connected to corruption in some way. So you could just ask your neighbor, where do you belong? Whether we are hurt by it, or we contribute to it, or we benefit from it. We may aspire the positions of power and influence, perhaps, making us potential beneficiaries. That's if all public officers are beneficiaries. Or we may find ourselves vulnerable to the consequences of corruption, bad roads, inadequate facilities, health facilities especially. We become victims. Additionally, we may actually work within institutions that may either perpetuate or mitigate corruption somehow. So again, find a place for yourself, but we are all connected. This three-dimensional lens through which we view corruption is not just confined to our national stage, that's our country alone. It extends to the global arena. The dynamics of power, inequality, and exploitation play in the global scale as well. And that's why we should have a rethink. When Prof was talking about Trump taking over, it's time for Africa to actually have a rethink. There I go. We know that developed nations, often the strongholds of wealth and power, they can contribute to global corruption. While these nations may have strong institutions, no doubt, that we often admire, and legal frameworks, their economic and political influence can create opportunities for exploitation for developing nations like ours. For instance, multinational corporations may engage in unethical practices such as tax avoidance or environmental degradation to maximize profits. And in the global space, you hear a lot of argument about who bears the tax of climate change. I mean, we are just coming up as a developing country. We have so much to do. Moreover, the gap between the rich and the poor on a global scale also increased the problem of corruption. The wealthy, often concentrated in those big nations, a lot of time we are quick to celebrate them, and of course, why not? They can contribute to undue influence over global institutions and policies, coming up with a system that benefits a few at the expense of many. I'm not against globalization in any way, but it is very imperative for all of us to recognize the interconnectedness of corruption in the global perspective. Earlier this year, I was opportune to be part of the team that gathered at Addis Ababa under AU, like you heard, Prof, that AU don't have so much strength. To some extent, yes. We gathered to demand an overhaul in the global financial architecture. And I'm sure a lot of time you've heard Adesina talk about a restructure of the global financial architecture. Why do we worry about that? A shocking reality is that a developed country like Germany, their debt stock, their overall total debt stock as of 2022 reached to about $2.9 trillion. That's the developed debt stock of Germany, small developed country. The overall Africa as of 2022 debt stock reached about $1.9 trillion, still less than one developed country. It's not the volume. Of course, we talk about the volume oftentimes, and our policymakers always say and argue that it's not the debt. It's not the volume of the debt. Everybody can be indebted. America too has debt and all of that. It's not the volume that bothers us. We didn't gather about the volume. What we gathered is the unfair interest rate, where in most cases, developing countries like ours pay 6 to 12 times more than what Germany pays as interest rate. That leaves us on a circle of debt and dependency. And this, I think, is unfair. And unfairness is also considered corruption. But then, while I allow the institutions that allow this type of global unfair, corrupt practices, while you ponder and find the middlemen, I will not again mention, and the institutions that allow this, I will reaffirm my convictions that we must foster indigenous solutions to strengthen our economic position in the global space. Often imposed by powerful nations can create opportunities for corruption. For instance, limiting the number of imported goods or imposing tariffs, government can create artificial scarcity and inflate prices for the 8 sectors, including the judiciary, of course, which is supposed to be a cornerstone for justice. There is actually no free corruption. I don't know. No, you shouldn't. We always like to talk about justice. There is no free corruption. There is no situation without a situation where we don't have corruption, but yet we have injustice. So that is to say that we can't build a nation free of corruption when there is injustice. But then, estate, wherever. But just cash exchange in 2023 reached about 721 billion, and it's equivalent to 0.35% of our GDP. This is quite disturbing, especially when you again understand the basic of macroeconomics. The oil and gas sector, I'm not going to talk about the 43 sector, I know you've been seated for quite a long time. The oil and gas sector is a major revenue source, so we can't keep it out of this. It's another hotbed of corruption, oil theft, revenue leakage, and inflated contracts siphon billions of naira from the nation's coffers. Between January and July, they reported that Nigeria have lost 437 barrels of crude oil, and I want you to do the maths. How much is it worth at the current crude price? Because when I tried to dial it, I was seeing some figures that I can't call. Is it $10 billion? I don't understand that we can run short of that money deliberately. I mean, our capacity is 2 million barrels per day, and then for over a year it has dropped. Now it has increased to about 1.8 million barrels. But 400 is quite significant, and it was giving me like $10 billion. I'm still yet to actually believe that my calculator was right somehow. It's quite difficult to come to terms with that. Why? Because we have Navy, we have the Army, we have the Civil Defense Corps, we have those other agencies, all of them with huge budget. And now beyond having them, we know that, okay, yeah, there are leakages and there are gaps. Beyond having them, for those of us that are scientists, if you understand the complexity of drilling and the oil theft, It's a whole logistics and a supply chain system. Because you're going to drill, it's not a 24-hour thing, it's not also a 48 hours, and then you're going to export it. So, entrenched in Nigeria. Of course, embezzlement of funds, election rigging, nepotism are all in the commonplace. We like to discuss the embezzlement of funds. But nepotism, what is it? The practice of favoring your friends and your relatives. It can also have significant impact in our so-called economic growth that we so desire to achieve. For instance, when hiring decisions are based on familiar ties rather than qualifications, it can lead to a decline in efficiency and productivity. Imagine a scenario that keeps repeating itself in our economy, where you employ less qualified individuals. In economics, we do understand that can lead to decline in efficiency and productivity. So the next time you check or the next time you make decisions of employing or favoring an individual based on his or her state of origin and religion, you are actually engaged in corruption. So you can't play the victim all the time. How can we achieve sustainable economic growth that we so desire when our decisions are influenced by state of origin, religion, ethnicity, rather than merit and competence? Where do we call for restructuring? A particularly harmful aspect of political corruption is that part that I was asked to talk about, godfatherism. The two actually goes together. I see godfatherism as a subset of corruption. That is when powerful individuals manipulate the political system for personal gains. These godfathers control political powers in all regions. It's unlike mentorship. Oftentimes we mistake it for mentorship. Mentorship involves only guidance and support. Godfatherism is exploitative because someone is suffering from your decisions. This system creates a hierarchy structure that loyalty to the godfather is prioritized at the expense of public services that we look up to. A striking example of godfatherism is actually found in Niger Delta region as well, where local political godfathers are there to get significant control over the region's vast oil wealth, where our revenue comes from. The Niger Delta, despite being one of the richest oil-producing areas in the world, remains one of the poorest regions in Nigeria. I was part of the team that worked on the multidimensional poverty index. And when we saw the report of Bayelsa, it was alarming. It's not even just Sokoto. Go to Bayelsa, all the indicators are very low. From education to access to healthcare, to all of the indicators that we use. And that is an oil-producing region. This paradox can be attributed to the widespread of influence of godfathers who have exploited oil revenues for personal gain, rather than use them to improve the region's infrastructure or the welfare of its people. And that is why concentrating power in the hands of a few kind of worsen economic inequality. And we economists, we worry oftentimes about inequality because it leads to social unrest, political instability, and hinders sustainable economic growth that we are talking about today. When a small group of people controls economic resources, it limits opportunity for majority of population. This can lead to widening gap between the rich and the poor, which often threatens us. But the last time I checked now, everyone bears the brunt of this gap, including the rich. Godfatherism, like many forms of corruption, can be understood through this three-dimensional lens that I earlier mentioned, where we have the benefactor, the actor, where we have the political system, and of course the victim. So the institution here, I can boldly, clearly define them, or the middleman, as the political system. When I was talking globally, my liver failed me to identify the institutions. The godfather, through their influence and resources, can manipulate political systems to benefit themselves and their people. This often involves exploiting weak institutions and a lack of transparency and accountability. This is not just English. When we talk about exploiting weak institutions, it means that godfatherism can only thrive on a weak institution. So godfatherism thrives in an environment. And that is the concern that me and you should have. I mean, enough of talk. Building a nation free of corruption and godfatherism. Whose role is it to build a nation free of godfatherism? If godfatherism is a more padded way of talking about mentorship, but this godfatherism thrives in an environment where political participation is low. Have you checked the recent participation in voting in Ondo State. Most of us are not, I'm not from Ondo State. But it is quite disturbing because even in economics, in political economy, we understand the repercussions of low political participation. When citizens are disengaged from political processes, it becomes easier for a few powerful individuals to take control of the system. So why then do you complain? So this lack of participation can be due to various factors. Of course, we can link it up, including poverty, illiteracy, and intimidation. Intimidation in the face of course, there's a cost to going to cast a vote. And part of the cost is that intimidation. There's a cost to the distance that you go to cast the vote. If that is done, but then political participation is not just limited to casting a vote. It is also not just limited to contesting or coming out for an elected position. Even the discourse is political participation. And that's where the road to Brexit, I'm not German. It's spelled B-E-R-T-O-L-T, B-R-E-C-H-T. And if you just want to search about him, search for the worst illiterate. He said the worst illiterate is the political illiterate. And then you don't want to know how he described the political illiterate. If you search for his poem and you read how he described a political illiterate, you want to participate in politics, either by having conversations about it. I mean, because I can't even read it. I wanted to quote and read, but then again, I feel it would be offensive to read what he calls a political illiterate. But he said it's the worst illiterate because he cares not about the price of food and the price of yam and the price of fish. And that was how he described it. He said it's just, just search it yourself and read. So this means that someone who is ignorant of politics is the most dangerous kind of person in this room. Someone who is, so I don't think we have a political illiterate, because if we do have a political illiterate in this room, you will not all be seated this long. So the next time you worry about the impact of godfatherism on sustainable economic growth, remember that your participation is very crucial. By being informed and engaged, we can collectively challenge corruption. Let's not be among the worst illiterates, according to the German poet. So let me start rounding up this. And it is no coincidence that the two speakers have repeatedly talked about two countries that I find here, Singapore and Rwanda. And if you do remember, some of you who were here the last time, I mentioned Singapore as one of my favorite countries. And I will not forget my trip. It was years ago, almost a decade. These nations have implemented robust anti-corruption measures, including strong institutions, transparent governance, and severe penalties for corrupt officials. No dogo turanchi. You steal money, you are convicted. It's that simple. A key lesson from both nations is the importance of strong institutions and effective governance. We can't rule out that, but we've heard that a couple of times. By establishing transparent and accountable systems, Singapore and Rwanda have been able to minimize corruption and create conducive environment for businesses and investment. Where was Singapore in 1960? It wasn't any different. But where are they today? With about corruption at their number 5 or something on the scale. This strong institution framework has contributed to their impressive economic growth. While we are struggling with adjusting our economic growth on the basis in the last 5 years from 2% to, I don't think we've reached for the last 5 years, 3.3 points. Rwanda is around 8 to 9% in recent years, consistently 8 to 9%. Both countries have prioritized also human capital development. And that was the point of Professor Felix. Investing heavily in education and healthcare, they have created skilled workforce and healthy populations. You know, oftentimes when we talk about, I don't know if this is working. Oftentimes when we talk about investment in education, people think it's because we are in education. It's not just about that. It's because there is just this direct correlation between education and the future workforce. A few weeks ago, I was taking my daughter around hospitals. I had to go to 3 private hospitals in Abuja to find treatment for her. Why? Because of possibly we have issues with qualified workforce, even in the private hospitals. So we have to build a standard. We have to build a standard. This has led to it can lead to increased productivity, innovation, and economic growth. Even investment in research and development is also very crucial. A recent study in Nigeria found that high cost, the study I was talking about, I wanted to bring the handbook so that some of you can photocopy it, but I will just add it to this barcode. It's a recent research that have been done. That high cost of living was a major factor driving corruption. So if high cost of living, corruption is not justified, don't get me wrong, but if high cost of living is a major driver, what are we paying for? Where are we spending this money? It's on healthcare, it's on education, it's on some burden that is meant to be carried by the government. Basic infrastructure is on repairs of our cars on bad roads that we often travel. You travel from here to Lokoja, you still have to come back and fix alignments in your car and all of that. Those are cost and burden that is meant to be carried in fixing infrastructures. So by investing in education, we can actually equip individuals with the skills and the knowledge they need to actually better paying jobs, to get better paying jobs, reducing their reliance on corrupt practices. Based on this, I've outlined only one recommendation on strategic ways to minimally reduce corruption, but in my material you'll find about 5 recommendations, ranging from education, redefining our approach to education, and even technology. But I want to just talk about one because I know you're tired. And that is a complete revamp on budgetary appropriation and execution. What does that mean? It is generally accepted, of course we know, that government spending can impact economic growth. But then, the specific types of spending also matter. It's not just government spending. Where are you spending it? For instance, investing in education, as I always say, often leads to better economic outcomes. We know that. The question is, does corruption lead governments to prioritize spending on areas that benefit corrupt officials rather than areas that would benefit the public, like education and infrastructures? In other words, could corruption lead to less spending on education? Because we really don't understand why the budget has been between 1 to 2 trillion. Meanwhile, just direct bribery is about 720 in 1 year, 700, direct cash bribery, not other bribery, is about 1 billion. Like, are we actually looking and ready for solutions? And why do we consistently record high recurrent expenditure? A review on the 2024 education budget revealed that the president, 2024, I mean the most recent, I put out the most recent so that we don't bore you with talks, budgeted about 2 trillion for Federal Ministry of Education with its agencies. 23% of this budget goes to capital projects, and the remaining 77% goes to recurrent. And what's the recurrent? Travels. Of course, I know salaries and wages is there, no problem, but travels, salaries, overhead costs. Let me just, overhead costs, so you don't quote me. This amount is higher than what, this is even a fair amount, what they budgeted for in 2024. It's higher than what the previous administration budgeted for in 2023. But we are still below the 15% recommendation by UNESCO. And like Prof had earlier said, we are the lowest in West Africa. I don't know if it's also in the world, but we are among the lowest in education budget for education. Even in infrastructure, according to budget is BUDGIT. The expenditure breakdown of 2024 comprises of 9.9 trillion in recurrent expenditure and a capital expenditure of 7.7 trillion capital expenditure. This is inadequate allocation for funds for capital expenditure. Despite a budget of 8.7 trillion, only about 2 trillion was budgeted for infrastructural development. It's insufficient to address a nation's population like ours and even the deficit of infrastructure that we have. This decline in capital expenditure points to a reduced focus on infrastructural investment, which may constrain economic growth and even the job creation. CBN recently reported that total government expenditure rose to 29% from 9 trillion in the first quarter 2023 to 12 trillion in this first quarter 2024, driven by what? Large recurrent spending. That's spending on wages, on salaries, on travels, and whatsoever you call overheads. Recurrent expenditure have surged from climbing on to 10 trillion in the first quarter from 6 trillion in the first quarter of 2023. So all of this, while these have inflationary implications, it also highlights the need for a more balanced approach in public spending. We have to rethink public spending. We need civil society organizations to speak up, to prioritize capital expenditure and reduce recurrent expenditure. The government can stimulate economic growth, but we can't keep spending on the current expenditure and expect that economic growth will be sustained. That's if at all we are growing. So as I conclude, I'm rounding up. I want you to remember that in the pursuit of corruption-free nation, it is easy to point fingers and assign blame. However, as we strive for a society built on transparency, accountability, and good governance, I will just recall the wise words of John 8:7. Let him who is without a sin cast the first stone. As we reflect on our own roles in combating corruption, finding a place for ourselves in the three-dimensional lens from the benefactor to the victim to the middleman, let's acknowledge that we all have responsibilities to be part of the solution. Corruption is often a symbol of deeper systematic issues, and true transformation requires a collective effort. So who among us here can cast the first stone? Perhaps the answer lies not in casting stones. It is working together to build foundation of integrity, transparency, and a bit of accountability. We are not asking for too much. This is the only way we can achieve sustainable economic growth, where resources, Nigeria is blessed with natural resources. Let's not forget depletion. Let's not forget environmental degradation. So resources are never sufficient. So we are aware that we have so much to manage, and opportunities should be created for all. By combating corruption and promoting good governance, we can unlock Nigerians' full potential and achieve sustainable economic growth. Again, I ask, who will cast the first stone today? Who among us will take the initiative to break the circle of corruption? You can only break it with breaking the institutions. I mean, the benefactor will always be there. You can't eradicate the benefactor. The victim, of course, they will always cry the victim. But the middleman is the one we need to break, whether on the global perspective or even domestically. Those middlemen, those institutions are the ones that need reform. Will we succumb to personal gain? And if we choose the path of integrity and justice, what does our economy stand to gain? Thank you for your time. Thank you.
If we could actually get Professor Felix's slide for that presentation, it would really be appreciated. If we can get the slide, please. Okay. Possibly, if we could even have it on the website.
We'll send it to your WhatsApp.
Okay. So, I think Nigeria's major challenge is insincerity, like we've actually heard from the three speakers, lack of political will and politics. Not that Nigeria doesn't know what to do. And we've been saying this, we've been preaching it, we've been teaching it over the years, but I think it's high time Icen now comes in. We need to push a little bit further now. Icen's role in this national awareness is pivotal. So where does Icen come in here? Like Professor Felix said, that he would actually appreciate it if there were other stakeholders, right? I think Icen should ensure a broader, wider scope of bringing both public and private stakeholders, especially the government. We know, and many of them may not even know, but this forum would have been a very good opportunity, for them to actually get to know more. These are actually powerful lectures that I, for one, don't think should actually end up in this room. This should actually be amplified to the Nigerian, social media houses. So I'm just asking the role of Icen, because this is where Icen is expected to play that pivotal role in national, building, considering what Nigeria is going through. Then the third thing is, I think Icen should increase its social media presence, especially on the suspended tax reforms. I was actually expecting to hear more, though Professor, one of the speakers actually said a little bit about that, but you know, a lot of people are actually confused as to what are the deliverables, the KPIs, the necessary things or the points that need to actually be taken note of. Most Nigerians don't know. Why should this bill be suspended? So Icen needs to educate Nigerians. We need to know more. So I think we need to lend our voice more in this regard. And lastly, okay, I've actually said that major stakeholders from the public and private sectors would actually make this institute's presence better felt in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Move to a level where when we organize conferences of this nature, people can sign in online, participate online, because given the challenges we face today as a nation, getting people to come from every corner of Nigeria to converge in a single location might be difficult for some who may not have the opportunity, of being given the permission to leave work and come, and then you look at the cost again. I mean, it will help. We can do this online. You get to see your members who are signed on online, contributing and all that. That way, we can get feedback, we can get inputs for as many as possible. And just to add to what my colleague here just mentioned, I think, fallout of a conference like this, maybe there could be like a position paper summarizing some of the high points of the matters we've discussed here. And the presentation can be made to the House of Assembly. Of course, there must be an economic team or an economic supervisory team, that this is our own humble contribution, as I say. That will help because we know that oftentimes some of them may know, some may not even know. They may just be there for their own pecuniary benefits and lost sight of, the challenges that are coming ahead, with Trump 2.0. So I think that if we do that, that could really, really help us, prepare as a nation for what is coming ahead. Just like, Prof said, after your presentation, I got some chills. But of course, thinking of what I've heard today, there are things I personally, have to plan for. And we have our brothers and sisters out there who do not even know the implication. Because much of what we know about Trump, most Nigerians, most Africans, is the garbage from social media. How Trump 2.0 is going to affect, LGBT and the likes. The real economic implication, most Africans do not yet know. And you really gave, insightful comments on what we're likely to experience from Trump 2.0. And I think that if we're able to pass this on, it just might get people to be well prepared. Because something similar happened when Obama came in, Bush left, we saw the meltdown, but a lot of us were unprepared. Some of us are still suffering that implication. And if you come and add Trump 2.0 on that, I mean, it could be so devastating that many people may not even recover. I think if we can do this, I mean, we will just be able to sleep well knowing that, we've played our role as a professional body, enlightening and educating people on the economic implications of change in government. Because change in government sometimes is not just one avenue, it's a change in the economic and political ideology, which is what the Trump 2.0 is actually, going to foster on us. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
When I joined Icen, I was very young. I just graduated. That was many years ago. And there's this subconsciousness, even though aside my personal faith, there's this subconsciousness that I'm an economist. So Nigeria must work, with my own effort. So my positive contribution is if this great organization can go beyond the induction and see if there could be relationship with, let us say, the professors at university level, cut across the whole Nigeria, and they kind of push this this institute, yes, thank you, to be recognized in a way that as people are graduated, from economies, they naturally embrace it. They naturally want to have it. How do you achieve that? I suggest you could create awareness. There are some things you use money to, there are some things you do, it seems as if you lose, in quotes. It seems as if you spend so much in trying to do it, but in the long run, you're going to gain. Now, you can have seminar, talk show, which if I, by the grace of God, is consulted or I could say, okay, sir, I'll be able to do this particular one. I can go and do this seminar somewhere, and I don't expect you to pay me much. Just take care of my transport and all of that. I will do it. I will. So we can have members at this level, associate, fellow, that will volunteer to go to schools. What are we trying to do? Let's be sincere. By the grace of God, I'm 44 years. I'm very young. Now, let's be sincere. Nigeria has gone far. What we are trying to do now, we are trying to lay foundation for the next 10, 20, 50 years, if Jesus tarries. It's not now. What we are saying now, it takes the mercy of God for our country to just change overnight. So what we are trying to do now is for us to get a better society, for those of us in our 60s, in our 70s, and God give us more long life for us to stay longer, 80, 90, and see the Nigeria of our dream, become a better place. We need to work it out now. We go. Imagine when you talk to people in their 20s that, as an economist, you go into the society, you have a positive impact. Don't associate yourself with people that want to swallow or, as in you take their mind away from corruption. You tell them the benefits, and they now go into the society like that. I tell you, Nigeria will be a better place. When people are going into politics, they go with the mind of impact, not, oh, I know I'm going to gain, but I think I need to impact. The problem we have with our godfatherism that our doctor, Mama, said this afternoon is that most of them don't have that mindset to impact. They are already thinking of what I will gain, what my children, great-grandchildren will gain, what my tribal people, the people from my zone will gain. So I am suggesting that we should go beyond ourselves, reach out to schools, universities, and all of that. Thank you very much, sir.
My name is Induction. I'm just attending this Icen induction for the first time. In fact, I'm an inductee. But I'm being overwhelmed by what I saw here. Sir, I want to ask a question, and I'll make observation, and I'll equally add a solution to that. I'm from the public service, that's public sector. What is the relationship between Icen and Icen and Anna in the public sector? Because I wanted to read accounting, but when I went to the university, I thought that economics is the mother of social science. I left accounting. And I know economics is a powerful course. It's a discipline you cannot go to it anywhere in the whole world. Sir, in the school of service, if you have Anna or Icen, you are taking to level 10. What about an economist? Now I'm a member of Icen. What's the recognition of the public sector? These are the motivators that will make people to come to this institute. I'm not comfortable with this place we are. I'm attending a lot of seminars, both Korean, engineering, MBA, Icen, Anna, and ICC in the type of center. Why are we here? Confined. Because of what? Advocacy and sensitization. Not like what my sister just said there. If we move and get this thing in the scheme of service, and we work in line with what Icen and the National Council are doing, we will have all these zones. We have it in states. People are clamoring to be a member. We are being dragged to join this. It's not supposed to be so. So we need to do more to get this issue recognized in the polity. We need to do more, sir. We know you have tried, Prof. But I want to support you. I want to tell you that I will support you in all means to make sure we get this recognized in the society. Because we have been embarrassed. Every year, they come for annual seminar, or whatever they call it, not induction. And when we get there, everybody will come. Our own cannot be different. Now I have started, we'll make our inputs and make sure we move forward. Thank you.
I came, okay, good afternoon. I came in a little bit late, and I saw Felix was presenting his paper, and I was wondering, I remember the last time he made mention of one thing that captured my attention, and that was, he talked about being deliberate in the overhauling of our curriculum in our educational sector to meet our developmental goals. And I'm wondering that all this presentation without looking at our curriculums, designing a way to actually target development in sustainable development in Nigeria, I don't think it will work. And also, our last speaker, Dr. Victoria, after all the papers were presented, I noticed that with all this, corruption will not allow anything to travel. And I'm actually a graduate of public administration. I wrote my thesis on transparency and accountability. I noticed that corruption is encompassing. As Africans, our relations, wife, you know, it is said when you are married to a woman, you are married to her family. That's an African actually understanding. Apparently you have to take care of her mother, her father, her siblings. That's an African standard. That's one key factor that actually messed up the whole system in this country. And it's not an issue that we should just look at and just shy away from. Corruption is embedded in Nigeria because these key factors are issues that made that people should be taught to disabuse that, okay, if I'm married to this woman, or my siblings will benefit from the position I'm having in an office. Yes, because that's where the corruption comes. People amass this wealth to take care of their siblings, take care of their wives' relations, and all of that. Then the other one is, China has a great penalty against people who are corrupt, death by hanging, and all of that. But people are still being hung. People still get their hands sawed in corruption. As grave as that penalty is against corruption, in Nigeria we do not have one. We do not have one. And I would like to ask the last speaker, do you think Nigeria, the National Assembly, has the willpower to enact laws that are punitive to issues of corruption in this country? Because most of them, they are benefactors of this. Thank you.
I'm happy and excited to be here. I actually wanted to raise something that the last speaker, Doctor, I have observed that in Nigeria, part of our problem is that most of our governors, most of our political elites, they put their effort in infrastructure rather than human capital development. I was in Rivers, the last Rivers governor performed very well in terms of infrastructure. But when some, I think three international organizations brought that, they said he didn't do well in human capital development. And I think this is part of the reason why corruption we have high rate of corruption.
Because most of our population, most of our graduates we are pulling at no skill. Human capital development, we are nowhere there. In China, according to our last speaker, 1.4 billion population, they have 3% of people living in average poverty. A skillful population. So I believe that we need to, if there is a need for us to increase the advocacy, if there is a need for National Assembly to enshrine it that in capital, bring out certain percentage for human capital development. It's not, this one is not palliative. Palliative is nothing. Well, I'm talking of human capital development, especially our youthful population. Anybody that has skill can be able to stand and continuously cater for his family. Not palliative. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank those who have made some observations, with regards to the conference, the participation of members, and probably our lack of or non-involvement. Let me just put it at this point like that. The participation of government officials in our conference. In all the years that I have been a member of the Institute, I've noticed that in recent times, yes, you're right in your observations, our conferences seem to be lacking, the participation of those members, and those members are really critical. Yes, we have noted that, and I want to assure you that the Governing Council will look at all this. That is why we are economists. We are here to look at the challenges that are staring us right in the face, and at the end of a conference like this, we should be able to bring out a communique that will just deliver to the relevant agencies, if not the government. I want to thank you very much for pointing out this. It's noted, and we are immediately going to address it, And we know that in these difficult times, people seem to be discouraged, either due to the cost of transportation and things like that. Yes, but then, when you are interested in an institute like this, you will do better than that. But I want to assure you that subsequently we make those avenues available so that when people cannot participate, physically, at least they can hook up online, hear the discussions that are going on, and also make their contribution. And so, after the Director General has spoken, because one of the key things we have missed again today is getting a team to put up our communique. It is very, very important, So I'm going to, after the Director General finishes with his comments or remarks, I'm going to ask for about 4 or 5 persons, who will help put up our communique, and then we'll see how we can channel them to the relevant agencies. Thank you very much.
Of course, most of them. Let me start from the issue of recognition. We have done our best, and we are still doing our best. Those of us that joined Icen 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, whichever, I can tell you that what you know Icen for as at that time, we have doubled it this time around. Icen is gazetted by federal government. You will hear from my speech tomorrow. We have the gazette. I have it, big copy. It's as big as this. That is one. Because there is something we were doing with the legal team. Because I'm a kind of person that I don't like making noise. People may be talking and talking while I'm there doing my underground work. And successfully, we did our underground work perfectly. Got the gazette. And as I'm telling you now, because I was with Abbas, our bill is supposed to be 001 in this 10th National Assembly. I met him before he was able
elected as a speaker. I met him in the hotel with the man assisting us. We discussed at length as we speak, because there are procedures. Before a bill can be taken in the House, the bill must be gazetted again. As we speak, Icen bill has been gazetted again by the National Assembly. As I said, we know what we are doing. At the federal level, we are gone. We are done. As far as this country is concerned today, no man in Nigeria can register a professional body bearing the same name with Icen. We have blocked that aspect. Yes, I will have a document with us, and we will have everything in our hands. Icen is going to remain as one entity without competitors. You see, I can never knew this. That's why you have a lot of proliferation of accounting. You get me? They never knew this. But I was with my legal team. I said, please, what can we do so that we will not face the same problem like ICAN? We have ANA, we have ICAN, we have AXIPA, that is the issue of certified public accountant, and many of them like that. Aiming at one object. What is that? To practice as a chartered accountant, as an auditor. But for economists, let us see what we can do. And then we succeeded. He registered both the trademark, everything, the name, everything, gazetted. As it is. I say it's gazetted. If you go to investment, you go to online, and if you, the number, some of you that have the letter, you will see the number is there. So we are not having it. No problem with recognition. Just be settled. Another aspect is participation. In Aso Rock, we have about 20 persons from Aso Rock directly that's supposed to be here. My man there told me, Chris Cooper, told me that 10 of them will be available tomorrow for induction. That I should forget about attending or not attending this conference. You see, this government, you need to understand how government works. They just need a certificate of participation. I saw. And they have paid the money. We have some people that are coming from Nigeria Aviation. They have paid their money, but they are not here now. They just need the seminar certificate. I will have about 10 to 20 again that are supposed to be here from this hydro electricity power. That is from Niger. That's supposed to be here. You will see their MD tomorrow. The MD is coming here today, tomorrow. Yes, it's coming here tomorrow with some team at Induction. But they are not here now. But they are paid for the seminar. But you see, when you look at the estimate, we were even expecting about 100 participants. But these people, because one, some of us still believe that they must report back to the office and what have you. But tomorrow is a free day. Tomorrow is the induction. Today is not the induction, today is just the conference. Because we are experimenting something. We want to see how we can separate conference from induction. That's what we are doing. And since we have succeeded today in having this, no more conference on the day of inductions. We are going to have induction, our induction is going to be induction. Inducting new members. All people will be delivered a day before the induction. That is what we are experimenting. So just bear with us. Whatever you see here today, you say maybe you put in the cage environment. We use national medical ward house. Women multipurpose we use. This is Busayara conference center. Those are the area we use. Those are the area we are using. You are getting me? Don't worry, by the time I say we are coming, we'll go back to that again. Thank you very much.
Well, they are at the extreme end. On marital burden, or family burden rather, as a form of corruption. Are you there?
Yeah.
Is it there? I want to look at you as I speak. Okay, so I feel the pressure. And it's not just on the part of the man, even us women. We also bear the burden of your in-laws, of our in-laws. But you know, we have culture, and it's a little bit similar and closer to Indians. And while we seek for development that will touch the roots of our population, of our people, we are not going to shift from our responsibility. But then, have you actually asked yourself what they are calling you for recently? It's actually out, maybe poverty. They are calling for school fees. If they are not calling for school fees, they are calling for help, for medical help, medical attentions. Those are issues around economic development. Those are burdened that to some extent. Primary health care, if our government is functional at this grassroots level to provide primary health care and basic free education for children, you will receive those calls. It will reduce the number of calls significantly. However, there is what we call poverty stress as well. So it's not like we are in poverty ourselves, so it's not like we are dimensionally poor, but we bear the burden of poor people, and it can actually stress on us. So these days calls for times where you actually choose the kind of help you render to those families. For instance, someone called me to say he needs money. My former driver said he needs money to bury his wife's younger sister. I have to just say it and make it clear. I don't render such kind of assistance. Do you understand? But then while it's not really justified, but what can you do in a society like ours where we have this culture that we carry family along as we grow? And on the other part, I think I remember another question on human capital development as against infrastructural development. You know, River State, it's completely different as Prof have said it. In other states, you don't see those infrastructure. You don't even see human capital development, you don't see infrastructural development. So you're even lucky in Rivers, you are seeing the infrastructure, so you are not just seeing the human capital development. Anyway, these are not, these are rights, because we pay for it. We give you money, you tax us to generate revenue, right? So we are not thanking anyone, public officer for it. However, it all depends on the regions. Every region to its specific needs. What may be the need in North Central? And to some extent, I give it to the government. I don't know the implementation strategies on the setting up Regional Development Commission, because I know the NDDC have failed. But then even thinking and accepting, acknowledging that we need regional development goals, because what is the problem in my region in North Central may not be the problem in Southwest. Out of school children may not be the problem in Southwest. But out of school children may be the problem in Northwest. So we got this regional diversity that calls for different methods. Some regions that infrastructural deficit is quite high. And that takes us to what Prof called territorial model, which I actually read a book I shared with you just now on understanding the politics of geography that shows the overall global space, how each country is powerful because of its geographical landscape and all that. So yes, human capital development should be prioritized. Infrastructure as well should be prioritized, as it has a way of impacting both short-run and long-run economic goals. I don't know if there was any question or contributions on corruption. This is all I can remember. But thank you. Which one? I said I will still refer back to my dimensional lens, the 3 dimensions, right? It's not just National Assembly to fix things. There are institutions. We are not short of anti-corruption institutions. What we are short of, we are also not short of policies, right? Yes, while I do not advocate for us to copy China's model and method of death by hanging and all of those extreme measures against corrupt officials, I know that we need a firm regulatory body. We just need to reduce the corruption in those institutions. So I call those institutions as, so it's not just National Assembly, it's also for the EFCC to be a little bit more deliberate. It's also the banking sector. Sometimes there is the banking sector are also involved. 2 years ago, or last year, I think, early this year, I saw a statistics. All the sectors were not growing. The banking sector was growing with about 10%. And I'm like, how can banking sector? How are you growing when manufacturing sector is not growing? How are you growing when agriculture had declined? I mean, what is boosting your growth? Do you understand? So we have, it's not just the politicians. We have the institutions that are very strong. The one I call the middlemen are very powerful. And so it's not National Assembly, they are those institutions that can actually combat the problem of corruption. I hope that answers you.
It's fine. There is something we're discussing that will happen, so I think Prof will need to nail that visual meeting. It's something that has been on discussion. Our vision for Icen is not Nigeria alone, but is actually on the continent. There have been a little bit of there are pushes, but we need to now push stronger and stronger, because we even have West African affiliation, and the vision is that where Africa is, you need engineers, you need everybody, but you need economy. And the more we move and push, I believe Icen will be properly positioned. I didn't want to actually make comment on the corruption, because I mean it's a daily thing, but for Nigeria, the corruption actually is in the constitution. It's a constitutional problem. The constitution that provided for federal character, provided for whether you like it or not, the position must be reserved for. It doesn't matter whether you are qualified, as long as you understand. The constitution that is, even though it's supposed to be a federal constitution, but operated with a unitary, everything is in the center, so that you cannot take corruption away, where if you rub it out with hand. So you understand, constitution is actually where, for me, that is where the corruption is. If you want to stop the corruption, you have to rewrite the constitution. No matter what you do. Tinubu came in, we thought he was going to make only about 13, 14 ministers. And I think now we have about 40 something. And because people are putting pressure on you, and they are demanding that it's constitutional. You understand? So those are the areas that I think, to move forward, we need to really deal with the constitution, so that it can help put merit instead of where you come from. But on the whole, it's our business as economists, it's our business as Nigerians to continue to contribute. We shouldn't be tired of talking. I can say we shouldn't be tired of talking. And honestly, I must, Prof, paper on statistics is short, but honestly, that is also one of the sources of corruption. You understand? The corruption started a long time ago by mismanaging, manipulating the figures. One of the surprising corruptions, Madam, sorry, I'm not presenting your paper.
No, it's fine.
One of the surprising things about corruption is when this third quarter GDP, NBS report, that unemployment dropped. I said, Nigeria, are we that bad? You understand? How can unemployment drop? When all the indices shows that people are, how did you work out that? So NBS, INEC, you are talking about middlemen. These are the godfathers of corruption. So no, if you really want to deal with, so I was listening to, I said, maybe next time we should have more time to really address some of these issues. Our system is arranged that all the numbers coming out are corrupt. You understand? So that is the problem we have. But we shouldn't give up. We shouldn't give up. I think the more we have, another thing, Prof, we've spoken about it severally, and people also mentioned it. We need to see how we can do quarterly, even if it's visual. Let's keep talking. And the more we talk, the more people will get interested. And people realize that we know what we're saying, we know what it is. And our solutions, you may think is not important. Our solutions, people will be picking up on our solutions. Well, Nigeria really needs us. Nigeria really needs us. They need economists, sincere ones, not corrupt ones. You understand? Nigeria needs people to tell them, you know, even though I was saying it in passing, you understand that when they redenominate the GDP next year, I must say, you probably didn't ask me, how did I know that GDP? Close to 800 billion, I won't tell you that. You understand? But those are all the numbers people want to do. And by the time you do that, that's also corruption. Because they lie, it's not true. So Icen is our business to continue to put facts and figures. Facts and figures. Every time when we come, we need to put facts and figures, because when the third NBS report came out, and then I was reading the press, they said, wow, we grew by 3.46. So we believe that in 5 years' time, we'll be $1 trillion economy. Last conference, that was what we treated here. How Nigeria is not possible to achieve $1 trillion economy. You understand? But now that is a target we want to achieve. While I want to support them to achieve $1 trillion, we must achieve it with facts and figures. So it's our responsibility. Look, the economy, maybe the next time we want to look at all the sectoral, how to build, maybe that's what we should do. We have 46 economic sectors. Other countries that don't have oil, gas, anything, you understand? They have all these other sectors bringing in money. You understand? So why is it that such a robust economic sector, nothing is happening? It's our business also to tell government how to activate all of these idle, dormant, moribund sectors that surprisingly can bring in foreign exchange for the country. So continue to come. Don't, I like what you said, and you're not the only one. All of us have that passion. So I want to continue to thank everyone. Please, if you have friends, let them know that we are part of the national renaissance. Economists, we are so important. You may think we are not, but we are so important. I want to thank the President. I want to thank the DG and my friends that I see once in a year. Once in a year. But I like her because, honestly, when I listen to her, in any time she presents, I see a deep passion. I see very deep. Even though she tried to smile, not to show that she's not happy, but I know that she's not happy that this thing is happening. Thank you, Prof. If you can solve your statistics, we can solve 50% of corruption.
Yes.
No, I know that. So we are going to be working to see that